Hello everyone, this is Soviet Russian Bear, back again with another video. So until recently, the seemingly unshakable belief of the majority of Russian citizens, the feeling of being Europeans, part of Greater Europe, has now been significantly shaken. At least the corresponding results are shown by sociological polls. What are the reasons for such changes in public consciousness? Recently, the Levada Center, recognized in Russia as a foreign agent, but at the same time remains one of the leading sociological services in the country, published the results of a very interesting and, according to some, alarming poll. According to it, the percentage of people who consider Russia a European country is rapidly declining. In September 2008, there were 52%. In the August 2019, already 37%. That is, it has decreased by 15 percentage points over 10 years. However, over the next year and a half, by February 2021, the percentage fell by another 8 points to 29%. The number of those who consider themselves European is also declining, 35% in 2008, 33% in 2019, and 27% in 2021. What accounts for these figures? Why do fewer and fewer Russians see their country as European and themselves as Europeans? There are many reasons for this, and first of all, political. The long-standing conflict between Moscow and the West, sanctions, demonization of Russia by Western media, all this influenced the minds of not only Western viewers, but also Russian ones. Demonstrative hostility and unfair treatment on the part of the Americans and Europeans led to the alienation of Russians from the West and Europe in particular, and the strive not to associate themselves with enemies. In fact, the West has managed to describe the current conflict to some extent as a confrontation between Europe and non-Europe, and not as a confrontation between one part of Europe and another. And not only for the Western audience, but also for the Russian one. This perception weakens the ability of the Russian authorities to bring up any pan-European ideas in negotiation with Brussels or Berlin. For example, to talk about the creation of a pan-European system of collective security, economic space, etc. Besides, it deprives the authorities of a universal argument for the domestic agenda according to European standards when carrying out domestic economic reforms. You cannot take an example from your enemies. Another reason is value-based. If you ask ordinary people what they mean by the concept of Europeanness, then you will be listed several qualities: democracy, the rule of law, social mobility, justice, a high standard of living, etc. That is, we are talking about the normal properties of any civil society with a high level of urbanization. All this has been associated with Europe for centuries. Europe, where Peter the Great cut the window, from where he borrowed the education system, engineering, science, army and navy for Russia. However, over the centuries of its history, Russia has also borrowed from Europe two of its most important ideological systems, Orthodox Christianity and Marxist communism. This Eurocentricity lived in the Russian elite for several centuries, and from the second half of the 20th century, for various reasons, it infected ordinary people. At the end of the 20th century, the Russians were bombarded from every TV and radio that the European countries are an example of a perfect society. An absolutely false message, which however turned into a persistent association among my compatriots, and as a result, Eurocentricity turned into Euro-obsession, which in turn became a part of the daily life of the whole society. For example, it was accepted even at the linguistic level that a good renovation in an apartment is a European-style renovation. Good roads are German roads, good wine is French wine, And a good vacation is a vacation in a European country. Good technology is European technology, etc. Yes, the habits of buying European goods are fading from our heads too slowly, in contrast to the obsession with values, which is much easier to give up. Fortunately, in contrast to the course of import substitution, the process of cleansing the Russian heads from false ideas and associations is much more successful. Now, we see that Europe has changed. We see how the liberal left European elites have embarked on the path of a systemic struggle against classical, conservative and stable European values. And they use extremely unattractive tools in this struggle: radical feminism, a fundamental refusal to assimilate migrants, pandering to woke anti-white racism, Antifa and Black Lives Matter movements, etc. Yes, this attempt is most likely doomed to failure. The more society is shaken, the more actively conservative resistance begins to grow and take shape in its depths. A few more electoral cycles will pass, and the liberal left idea will finally discredit itself, after which the centrists and or conservatives will come to power. However, today the situation is obvious. Thanks to these liberal leftists, the concept of Europeanness has been discredited in the minds of Russians. Russians paradoxically still buy European goods, think in European categories, but no longer consider themselves Europeans. At least not such Europeans as the Europeans who live in the EU countries right now. Finally, the European idea is being discredited in Russia as well. In particular, Russian self-proclaimed liberals who interpret European values very freely and impose this very interpretation of Europeanness on Russian society. For example, Leonid Gozman in his program text Russia After Putin, How to Restore the State, written together with a well-known expert on the Russian Federation, Anders Oslund, described several quote-unquote effective liberal recipes. Among them, for example, to disband the FSB, because no one threatens Russia neither from within nor from the outside, abandon the presidential form of government in favor of a parliamentary one. Probably, according to the authors, the Russian population has much more respect for the State Duma and the local deputies than the foreign institution of the president. Release Islamists from prisons as people who are imprisoned for religious reasons. The authors apparently missed the bombings in Moscow and terrorism in the North Caucasus. Abandon Donbass to put an end to the quote-unquote senseless and immoral war. Yeah, right. When Russian residents of the DPR and LPR are illustrated, sent to concentration camps for re-education, or even hanged, as one figure from Dnipropetrovsk suggested, the war will probably end. Yeah, right. However, the cherry on top in this liberal European recipe was a proposal to abandon the principle of preserving the territorial integrity of Russia. According to the authors, the government should focus on the welfare and security of its people and not on preservation of the territory. And how is the government going to focus on security of the people? Is a rhetorical question. Which means that the secession mechanism should be clearly outlined in advance in the new laws. Let me remind you that it was precisely the existence of this mechanism that the national elites of the Soviet Union took advantage of, and at the time of a serious internal crisis of the country, it was simply destroyed. The entire post-Soviet space, including Russia, is still experiencing the monstrous consequences of this collapse. It is not surprising that the percentage of Russians associating the country with Europe and themselves with Europeans is steadily declining, and you should understand that. Okay, this has been Soviet Russian Bear, and I'm not saying that this is a good or bad thing, I'm just telling you how it is, that fewer and fewer Russians consider themselves Europeans, and Russia is a European country. It's up to you to make conclusions. So this has been Soviet Russian Bear. Thank you very much. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace, love and prosperity to all of my incredible, wonderful audience. Yeah, if you want more videos like this, please click the like button, and if you like this, please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Anyway, до свидания, bye bye.